From the NBC Tower in downtown Chicago, this is WrestleZone Daily on a Monday. WrestleMania could be changed big. John Cena, Roman Reigns, who could they be fighting at the biggest show of the year? And what does Goldberg have to do with all of this? Plus, the latest hype about WWE Super Showdown and All Elite Wrestling Revolution. Today on WZ Daily. Share the link. Sing it with me. What's up, everybody? Kevin Kell. Follow me on the Twitter at KEVKELLM. Mr. Robert DeFelice. Roberto, how are you once again? Big Bobby down in Tampa. Big Bobby in the Bay. It's Robert DeFelice with us. Follow him on the Twitter at Felice.
I'm all right, Kev. It's Monday. You know what that means?
We got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to get in.
Is there ever a day where we don't have a lot to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, this is a day where we have tons to get into. We do have coming up on today's show big possible changes to WrestleMania involving John Cena, Roman Reigns, and Goldberg. Plus a title involved. We'll get into it. It's developing. We'll also talk about WWE Super Showdown coming up this Thursday. This week's Monday Night Raw. All the WWE things. All Elite Wrestling has a huge week as they've sold out the Wintrust Arena in Chicago as part of the upcoming C2E2 comic book pop culture convention this weekend with a big pay-per-view event, AEW Revolution. They'll build up the hype with that. And we got a lot more to get into. A whole lot to get into. You can see him there on screen, Mr. John Cena himself, the Hulk Hogan of millennials. Some people have called him.
That's a weird way to phrase it.
It's a weird way to phrase it. Yeah, for sure. If you're joining us live, once again, share the link. If you're just catching the show and you can't watch the whole thing, I have to go do this, or I got to pick up my kids, or blah blah blah. Don't worry, you can subscribe.
Your kids can wait.
Your kids can wait. We're talking wrestling.
That's right.
You can subscribe to WrestleZone Radio on your podcast feed. Get the show on demand, 4 shows a week. We will have extra shows this week as well with Super Showdown and All Elite Wrestling Revolution over the weekend. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe and spread it on. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you for doing that. We just started posting the shows on YouTube there as well. And don't forget to jump into the comments. We will talk with you as well. We'll get into all of it. But let's jump right into our lead-off story. Enough promo, enough talk. What about these big possible changes to WrestleMania? Now, the lane looked like they were pretty set here for Roman Reigns to take on The Fiend for the WWE Universal title at WrestleMania in Tampa Bay. We had also reported over the past week that John Cena would be included on the card and have an official match, and he would take on Elias, which was seen as kind of a curveball since Elias hasn't been much of a TV player in the better part of the last year. Though he's been a part of the mix for WWE, I understand he's had maybe possibly some injuries, but he's definitely been on the shelf for quite some time. Certainly a guy who's over, but him and Cena was a surprise last year in a random segment, not so much a match, that saw Cena come out and do the Thugonomics bit in New Jersey at WrestleMania 35, but here at WrestleMania 36, it looked like he was going to get a match. Not going to happen. So Cena and Reigns are currently without matches at WrestleMania. Now, obviously, they're going to be on the card in some way, and then you can throw in 2 other names as what does that mean for The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Goldberg, who will face this Thursday in Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown. So 4 big names, 1 title, and the biggest show of the year. And things are being shuffled around. Dave Meltzer reporting those 2 matches with Cena Elias and Reigns and Bray Wyatt look to be off the table.
I want to point out the only person in the space that was saying Cena and Elias was Dave Meltzer. So for me, it sounds like Dave, I don't know, maybe watched an episode of SmackDown and saw Elias playing around with instruments and remembered what he was doing. But there's no objective way for me to say this. That never sounded like it was going to be a plan. Now maybe it's a little more open wide in terms of, yeah, we want to run with Cena and Roman and Cena and Goldberg or whatever. But if I had to guess, I'd say it doesn't look good for The Fiend.
So it doesn't look good for the Fiend. So are you telling me you think he doesn't even make the cut for WrestleMania? That's ridiculous.
I didn't say that at all. I just said he wouldn't be involved in. It doesn't look like maybe he doesn't make it out of Thursday with the belt.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll cover the big things out of this week's SmackDown. But I mean, John Cena, this is a pivotal guy. He's a draw. And he's going to do some big numbers this weekend. A lot of people joining us right now just because we're talking about John Cena. Sound off. If John Cena is not facing Elias at WrestleMania, we're going to have a good idea after this week's SmackDown what the path is for him at WrestleMania 36. It will tie into the promotion and media blitz that you will get for the upcoming Fast and the Furious movie, where he's the villain in the movie. He has a pivotal role, and maybe the biggest movie role he's had since he's jumped into films more seriously. And this is just a repeat of what we saw about 8 years ago. The Rock did this when he really wanted to get his movie career tied more to his wrestling persona, and he jumped into the Fast and Furious franchise. And he got right back into it with WWE, and it benefited him. And his core fan base kind of came back to him for films. Is that what John Cena is trying to do here with movies?
WrestleMania is in Tampa. Cena lives in Lando Lakes, not far at all.
The butter place?
That's right. Cena makes butter on the weekends.
On the weekends, he churns it. That's what keeps his arms strong, baby.
But John should be at WrestleMania. Let's call a spade here, folks. John's last four Manias actually have all sucked. 32, he was injured, did the run-in with The Rock in a segment with the Wyatts. 33, he had a big storyline that ended with an engagement that is no longer a thing. 34, he has a 2-minute squash match losing to The Undertaker. And 35, he's just the Thugonomics guy. He needs a big John Cena moment because I feel like this is the good year for it too, with all of the hype and nostalgia around the Ruthless Aggression era. I think this is the right year.
He's the biggest name from that era.
Yeah, and I think this is the right year to put him against, anybody really.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Adams texting and saying, "What about Cena versus Goldberg?" Goldberg is in the mix. We'll talk about what could happen with him. I've heard
that was never on my radar. Has that ever been like a dream match for you?
I don't know, but I certainly feel it would be a dream match for it. It's a multi-generational match. I think for your younger millennial fans, guys who were teenagers when he broke up, when we're in grade school when he broke out, guys that are in their 20s, guys and gals that grew up. John Cena is their Hulk Hogan. That's why I said he's the Hulk Hogan millennial for a lot of people. Like, he's their guy. But then for other people, Goldberg is just, let's put it this way. I know a lot of people don't like themselves from Goldberg. They're hardcore wrestling fans. But you know who does? A lot of casual wrestling fans. Goldberg was on SmackDown this week in a show closing segment with The Fiend, setting up this match in Saudi Arabia. He's been utilized twice to go to Saudi Arabia, an international market where they're definitely leaning on more casual fans. He is a guy that is over with the casual fan base. And it proved, this week's SmackDown was the number one show on broadcast television, 18 to 34th male demographic. All right. With an 0.7 share. Let me just not put that. This isn't me being a WWE apologist or kissing their butt. That is a significantly strong number for wrestling. And when people talk about wrestling not drawing younger viewers, or WWE specifically not doing it, Goldberg did. And this is a guy who, for many people, felt his prime was in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Let me add to that and say this is why, because WWE has moved away from this in recent months. Keep your hot segment for your final segment. Make people watch the whole show. Goldberg closed out SmackDown, and I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and that held the show and it proved a good hour-to-hour rating. Scott George saying maybe we get Goldberg versus Reigns at WrestleMania. That was something I've heard simmer up to the top, but more speculative. What's the best match? You got 4 different guys you could pair up here. If you're not doing Reigns versus Bray for the title, I see things breaking out this way. John Cena trying to break the all-time world championship title record, right? 17 title reigns. Ric Flair had 16, all right?
Right.
He goes up against a super mythical force. He's John Cena. He's Captain America. He's the superhero. Him versus Bray Wyatt. They've done it before, but this is the Fiend. So it's a completely different incarnation of the character. I think it's a fresher take, and there's different things you can do with it. I also think Cena playing with the Firefly Funhouse stuff makes for good TV. and you can lean into the gaga, if you will, and not have to have Cena in the ring too much, to get to this match. And if he has movie roles and things coming up, and he does, that may be something that's lighter duty. Goldberg versus Reigns, I think is an exciting match. I think that's a match that, in terms of their styles in the ring, how explosive they are with power, the spear versus spear element, I think that's a hotter match than Goldberg versus any of the other three.
I think with Cena, the one who loses here again is Wyatt, because the other three are important enough where, yes, the belt is nice and the belt needs them. Wyatt, unfortunately, I think they got him right back into a position where he needs the belt. And I think I'm going to agree with you. The money is in Cena breaking the record because the story writes itself. Goldberg versus Cena would be cool. Goldberg saying to Roman Reigns, hey, you took my spear and you made it more lame, is probably cooler for a certain segment of the audience. I definitely feel like whatever Goldberg does, it's going to be, hey, I was a real badass and you were a pretender. That seems to be like where the money is with him. The one that I really can't figure out right now is Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, because they're a little more lost in the shuffle. Even Roman. I think people are assuming it's a foregone conclusion that he can just have the belt whenever he wants it. But he hasn't had the strongest run in 2019.
Other people kind of enjoying the shuffle here. Charles Sirio saying they're trying to make WrestleMania better than last year. And on paper, this is already turning out to be a pretty strong card already. You're going to get that Edge versus Orton angle, which I think, they put that in the back burner. It's exciting. They can rev that up again. And that's the reason why they're doing Orton and this Hardy stuff they've been doing for the past few weeks in WWE. Let's see what other people are kind of chiming in here. Please don't make it 7 hours long. Yeah, you could WrestleMania be wrong. Jason Diamond joining the show for the first time. All right,
I think WrestleMania will be 7 hours long. I think that is the reality of modern WrestleMania.
It's a long show. It's a wrestling festival. You get a full day of it. Jason Priestley says WWE has no one that is built up enough to beat the Fiend. Is anyone worthy of beating the Fiend, Robert?
Okay, let's get into this, because we were going to talk about this a little bit before the show. I think the way they ended SmackDown sucked, because Goldberg, again, looks immediately stronger, tougher, smarter than 90% of everybody on the roster. He's no selling the Fiend's stuff. He's just like, oh, wow, you're behind me, and spear. It just makes a generation that can't go look so much cooler. Imagine if, the Spider-Man movies, right? Got Tom Holland. Imagine if Tobey Maguire just showed up in every movie and was just like, you suck. I did that better than you. And by the way,
Robert, I'm gonna stuff you on this one. I'm gonna Dikembe Mutombo and block this shot, if you will. Okay. And I'm gonna say why I'm doing this as I clear out the screen and just give you and me, and we go head to head on this baby. Let me get you back up here, Robert. There we are. There you are. Come on, Robert. Get back in here. There you are, Robert. My thing is this: how many times are we gonna see the Fiend with his tricks and his gaga, and I'm going to pre-film this, I'm going to be on the Tron, and you're going to be in the ring, and then I'm going to spring up, and then I'm going to attack you, and then I'm going to choke you out. The pace and consumption and processing of certain devices, whether it be moves in the ring or the way promos are cut or the way an entrance happens, some of them are ritualistic, and everything with Bray feels like a ritual. The entrance is a big deal. The promos are a big deal. He's a character that exists in his aesthetic, right? Mm-hmm. But doing that aesthetic means you have to do repetition to get it over. A lot of things in WWE work because they repeat it over, and then you get into it and you're into it, right?
Right.
With the modern fan, though, loses their patience with that a lot quicker than they're used to. The WWE formula isn't broken. It just has to be sped up faster. And I think with Bray, and especially adding Goldberg to it, he's familiar. He's strong. He can beat people and surprise people. They've established that. Goldberg can be beaten himself, but he's proven to be an older veteran who's wily and still strong as he used to be. All right. He beat Brock Lesnar. He wasn't supposed to. You can expect explosive, surprising things out of Goldberg. That that has been set. That stone is there. And then with Bray, everything is supposed to be unknown, even though a lot of it's kind of known. He springs up, he scares you, he does some different type of scary thing. He's a spooky man. He's a spooky pervert, right? Big old spooky pervert, right? So I was okay with it because is it just another person that can't beat the monster when you need a guy with monster strength to beat him? You know, I was okay with it because it was a good twist on something we've seen before, and it proved to work.
But why Goldberg? Why a guy who is
going to Saudi Arabia? You need these characters that a whole kind of like catch-up generation of fans overseas are getting into, right? And that's a guy that's over. Like, if you tell me 20 wrestlers that the casual fan knows, Goldberg's on that list. You know, he's on that list. He's very familiar, and Bray Wyatt is a guy who's kind of coming up very, very quickly. You and I know that he's the number one wrestler with people that love horror movies and comic books and dabble in wrestling. You know, you and I talk about how All Elite Wrestling is this fan base that wants to say they don't watch WWE, but if they do, they want to know what the Fiend's doing, right?
Right.
It's a lot easier for All Elite Wrestling to have an entire faction that's basically like their own take on the Fiend in the Dark Order, right? They're going for a spooky supernatural element with him. And they didn't. WWE's done this before with The Undertaker. So he appeals to two different things. And what's Goldberg? He's pound for pound, real world strength. And we've known it for decades, right? So I enjoy the elements that are at play here. This is if you told me a couple weeks ago when they announced this that I would be as into it as I am, I would have been surprised. But I don't mind being surprised. I don't mind being worked into an angle in the right way. And this is one where even if the match isn't that great, I think they've done a good thing. I don't think any of the characters have been overexposed in terms of a 3-week build to get to a match that may or may not be consequential, but certainly will lead into WrestleMania. If this is the semifinal for Bray Wyatt to get into WrestleMania, then so be it. I'm into it, and I'm into it more than I thought I would be. Is that fair?
I think that is totally fair. Here's my thing, and forgive me, audience. I'm going to just take a little journey through time back to the Goldberg-Lesnar rivalry, because my whole issue with Goldberg there was Ambrose comes at this dude, Brock Lesnar, with a chainsaw. Brock doesn't flinch. Goldberg takes off his shirt. Brock Lesnar backs off. It's a weird thing to do to constantly establish today's roster is weaker. Today's roster cannot instill the fear and intimidation that one look from a Bill Goldberg can instill in his opponent. It's just a weird thing to constantly push.
I get it, but I mean, is the Fiend always... The thing is, the Fiend has been so protected, right? He's been so protected and so built up in a completely different way than Bray Wyatt was. The big thing with Bray Wyatt, they said all the time, is he's this really crazy character, but he always loses big matches, right? Mm-hmm. And never got the edge on anyone. And now he has the edge, and everyone doesn't want him to lose any of his edge. Now, I think with you got to have the Fiend reel back a couple of times. You know what I mean? You got to have the monster kind of be like, wait, I'm supposed to scare you. Like, that gives you a pause to be intrigued about the next step. They're supposed to intrigue me, and they've done it.
Now we have a match in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where you have this battle-tested legend who can only go 5 minutes. And that's not a knock. I'm saying this guy only works better when he goes 5 minutes. Versus...
So, hey, some people could say that about Bray Wyatt, too.
But that's what I'm getting at. Versus the guy who can take 14 curb stomps in 5 minutes and come back up for more. It's bone on bone here. I don't know who is going to flinch. I don't know what is better. Maybe for the sake of longevity, it's better that Goldberg's in for a one shot. And he just puts the Fiend over.
It's going to be more than one shot. So Goldberg at WrestleMania, as we talk about Goldberg here, what's a possible match for him at WrestleMania? I think that Roman Reigns match would be the best take, correct?
I want the Roman Reigns match.
Yeah, I think that's a good one too. So I can see something there. This question coming in, this was a story over the weekend. I did not want to be remiss without this. Don't worry, All Elite Wrestling fans. We will be talking about AEW Revolution too. I know if we get 20 minutes into the show, we don't bring up AEWs, people get mad at it. Nick Batson saying WrestleMania streaming on ESPN Plus. Now, this story kind of broke out on Friday afternoon and developed over the weekend. This comes out of the most recent investors call from WWE, which was post them releasing two long-running presidents of the company, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. And that is when Vince McMahon kind of put the droplets out there of WWE working with another OTT service, another streaming service. Now, there's a lot of streaming services that are both coming and developing and prospering in many different ways. WWE apparently feels that, well, maybe we've gotten everything we can out of the network in terms of presenting pay-per-view style events. And maybe it's time to keep the network going, but do something else with their kind of premium event.
The network fails if they do this. This is me as a day one subscriber. Listen, today marks exactly 6 years that the network launched. I still get the money taken out every 24th because I subscribed day one.
Mm-hmm.
You are failing if you take this off of the network. You have conditioned a whole new generation of audience. Think about it. 6 years. That's pre-Sasha Bailey. That's pre-Women's Evolution. A whole generation of people know only one thing. $9.99 for this thing called WWE Network, and you get all the wrestling. You decide that you want to switch that up and put it on ESPN Plus, which I'm not a UFC guy, but as I understand it, means you have to pay for ESPN Plus and then pay the price of pay-per-view. You're not going to hook me. And I'm telling you this as a diehard who has to cover this for his job.
Oh.
That's a mistake. That is a large mistake.
It is a test because WWE is so conditioned people, as you mentioned, at that price point. And I think they've also changed the wrestling industry. I mean, imagine, All Elite Wrestling is their major competitor, correct?
Right.
Domestically. The big crack at them when they came out and they presented Double or Nothing as their first show, right? In the summer, the past summer was, you got to pay, $50 for this on pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to subscribe to your service. I know BR Live, I believe, is free, but you had to pay. You have to put in your information. They get your information. They have your data. And then now you're paying $50 to them. Now with ESPN Plus, you're right. You have to pay then to pay more to get the event. That is a conditioning thing where you've conditioned fans to think of it at a certain point. Do you think the mistake is that WWE maybe put too much pay-per-view premium events on the network when they launched it? And maybe if they kind of held some of that off, if they told you like, oh, you're going to get all of our pay-per-views except the big four, right? And those are still going to stay on your Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, maybe Money in the Bank, Survivor Series, whatever you want to say. The big four, WrestleMania, obviously, they're going to stay on pay-per-view. You're going to pay 100% every quarter. I don't think fans would think too much of that. Even
100%.
Even if they did that, even if it was something where a few years into the network they said, "Hey, we're gonna do this with WrestleMania." Now, mind you, there's a lot of different things that could change with this. ESPN could get WrestleMania, and there's so many different things with this. It's just being reported. Now, that's the process that you have to get a UFC pay-per-view event, and that is the major reason, reportedly, from Wrestling Observer and other sources as well, that WWE is interested in maybe doing this deal with ESPN Plus. But also, the news of this was received very well on Wall Street. WWE, publicly traded company, their stock went above $50. That was a 5% increase in a day. So that's a pretty remarkable response to that. If WWE could start bringing in money that way, and look at what's most profitable for them right now. The network, in the eyes of some people, I would not describe as a failure. You can't look at this thing and think it's bad for wrestling fans. But also, if the network was still just a huge archive of on-demand content and a lot of NXT and other things too, I still think it'd be worth $10, but would it retain the same amount of subscribers? I think you would see a dip, but I think WWE would kind of prepare themselves for that too.
We're talking about, and I'll shoot straight here, Kev.
Yeah.
This is going to open the floodgates of piracy once again.
And I think piracy was a big thing why a lot of people were like, why would I want to pirate it? I get it right from the network. I get a good internet link. It's not some weird website where I think I'm going to get a bunch of cookies and malware.
I have championed this throughout the years of like, you spend $100 a month and you can probably get access to every promotion anywhere ever legally. Now you're asking me to pay for a network and ESPN Plus and a pay-per-view? It's a mistake.
Joseph Priestley said with a different take here. I don't exactly agree with this, but this is an interesting one. Joe's saying, if they made a product worth paying for, I would pay for it. Well, okay, all right. Now, come on. The old bitter wrestling fan.
Hold on. The network is what killed WWE. They don't have to try to sell you anything. Now, interesting take. I don't agree with the first half, but I want to focus in on that. They don't have to try to sell you anything. I do think that there is maybe a part of them that got a little lazy because, hey, listen, it's $9.99. You're locked into the network.
We have so much content. It's not just these regular shows. We have NXT. We have all these other things. But also you could say it's just simply that's I see that though too. But at the same time, it reminds me of Netflix where it's like, we're going to spend so much producing content anyway. I think it's hard for them to have that constant WrestleMania hook every 4 or 5 weeks that reels you in. That's just unnatural to think that they have that.
No, and that's why
Marvel movies. It's like Marvel movies. I know a lot of fans of Marvel that kind of like pick and decide what movies they're actually going to go see. I had friends that are like huge Marvel fans, and they just went and saw like the last Ant-Man movie when it popped up on demand or something like that. They're like, oh, I hadn't seen this. It's been out for like 2 years or something like that. So I think for some fans, there is that pick and choose thing when there's simply just so many options, especially just from WWE.
I think, yes, it does great on Wall Street. At the end of the day, WWE is a publicly traded company, and they have to make sure they get their money. But
this question from Stanley Smith: what if they had it on WWE Network and this ESPN Plus deal? Well, here's the thing: I don't think that'll exactly happen, but there could be some shakeup in the sense of if it's on WrestleMania, if it's WrestleMania Day, that's a long event. Is all of WrestleMania on this ESPN Plus deal? There's a lot of people that have speculated, what if WrestleMania just goes to television? It's something you watch as like a TV event.
That would be horrible.
I don't know. But there's a lot of different speculation about this. And obviously WrestleMania is the big one that everyone thinks of. It's a few weeks away. And McMahon himself saying, yeah, if there is something announced with this, it'll be announced before the end of the first quarter of the year, business-wise. I don't see WrestleMania not being on the WWE Network this year, though. I think we're too close in the game for them to move it to something else.
Yeah, I hope not. I think this is a huge mistake. And I think for me, this preys upon this idea that, well, all your diehards are always there. No, they're not. We learned with the Monday Night War, a lot of people just went away after WCW. People go away. You're not guaranteed, a fan base. Nobody owes you anything.
Yeah.
And I think
Jimmy Jesse saying if they pull pay-per-views, it would kill the network. It would kill it. So.
We joke a lot in the show. I know a lot of new people are joining us, and we're very grateful for that. But we have a core like 2 dozen people. And how would they feel if we just said, you know what, guys? No more Facebook. You got to get this show on Patreon. Do you really think we would grow our viewership, or do you think we're taking a hit?
Well, and this also, there's a lot of speculation. I didn't feel nearly as much backlash when the idea of them raising the price of the network, which is $10 a month. If they raise the price of it to, even $20, I think many people would stay with it. And you would get a lot of the same content. And what is the turnover if these events are on, they stream live on something else? What's the turnover onto the network? For some people that could not be nearly as big a deal. But so much of WWE is driven by watching it live, or at least watching it within 24 hours when it airs, right? So there's that, because it does have that sports element. So there's something there. Other people signing off. Johnny U texting in, WWE has some good original shows, but they don't follow up with it. Photo shoot was awesome, but he's talking about other things.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about what's on the network that isn't wrestling. You can do more with that. I think you can get more for what you have now if you up the price and say, by the way, now you get every Evolve show live as it airs. By the way, now you get every Progress show live as it airs.
That was what we were hearing at the beginning of 2019, that at some point they would launch a tier, $10. We're going to put a bunch of pre-roll ads on it, and this tier, you'll get all this, and then this tier, you'll get that. And then I think at some tier, it would say, like, you're getting WrestleMania only if you pay this much a month, or you're getting the big events only if you pay that. William T. Wage is bringing that. Why not just have a pay-per-view package within the network? I think more fans would be okay with that. If they knew they were paying more and they were getting the bigger events, but they didn't have to get a different app, or they didn't have to put their credit card information, and you didn't have to go through that hoop of something else, that actually wouldn't be that bad of a move either. But it does seem like WWE likes the idea of a rights deal. I mean, how much money did they get from Fox or SmackDown? It was over $1 billion. And then that upped their price with NBC Universal. And then you can talk about the Saudi Arabia events, which is sort of a TV rights deal as well for those events. So it's something here. You know, there's some moves being made, and they're going to be big, and fans will want to know and have opinions on them. So Thomas B saying WWE could raise the monthly price to $13 a month. I'm good. I'm surprised they never raised the price. They've had it for 6 years. They never.
And again, all the more reason why what they're rumored to be doing looks stupid. Because you could have done all these things along the way, and in fact, you put the pedal to the metal on. Get the network for free with the new email address. Like, if people weren't going to just mooch the network off of people or create a new.
That's another thing, is how many more people are watching WWE events on pay-per-view now because it's through a network, and hey, I'm not at home. I bought my nephew the network for 3 months with my brother for Christmas, right? And my credit card changed, and I couldn't get into the network to watch something this past weekend. So I was putting in my new credit card, and they're like, all right, I activated my credit card on like a Saturday, whatever. It didn't go through. So I was like, hey, give me the password, because I'm paying for another one, right? For my nephew to watch it in his own time. So there's that. But Joe keeps texting in here. He's really, really angry about this. Joe says, they can give away the first month for free. That tells you how much you know. Everyone does that. That's a mute point. Netflix does that. Hulu does that. Spotify does that. SiriusXM does. All those like media streaming services that you can get, they all do that. I don't buy that at all. I don't think that's
correct.
a thing. That is how you get people to try your thing. And if they don't like it after 30 days, I don't have to keep it. So that's fine. So a lot of people saying they've conditioned things in a different way. So Kevin Durgan with different points. Coming from having to pay $30 to $60 for pay-per-view, I would pay a little more for the WWE Network, but they need to add something to get the deal like Nat Geo and Disney. Oh, he's bringing up the bundle thing that Disney did. They have Disney Plus. You get I believe you get ESPN Plus in that, and you get Hulu. So this could put some events in that category. And maybe it's a bundle deal. Maybe this isn't just a straight up thing. Maybe Disney owns the WWE Network.
That would be wild.
Maybe it's not you're paying for pay-per-view. Maybe it's if you want Disney Plus, you get WWE Network as well for an extra $5 a month or something like that. Hulu has done moves like this. If you get Hulu and you're not a cable subscriber and you're just streaming to your house, obviously you're getting internet, right? You can get Showtime and HBO through Hulu. You're going to pay more money for it, right? You're going to tack it on your bill, but you're still getting them, and you don't have to do it through a cable provider. What's to say you don't do WWE Network that way?
I'd be more down for that than a lot of other ideas being discussed.
Yeah, but also, do you blame them for wanting to get more money into the product? It's a business, it's a business, and they can do what they want with the product. I agree. There'll be some backlash on this no matter what, but Wall Street responded to it. And then Matt Pessold saying Disney owns everything. What is that bit on they did on South Park where the mouse came out? Come on, what do you mean you're not going to get out there and dance? When they had
at some point we're going to get Bart Simpson versus Stewie Griffin at WrestleMania. And it's weird, but that's where we're headed, folks.
But Kevin Downey said, I think they'll lose subscriptions, but will make money up on an ESPN Plus royalties and rights, and anything beats a $60 show. So there's that.
I agree.
But it doesn't. We don't know. I don't think this is all for sure. But is it going in that direction? That's what's being reported. We're just giving you what we take here. And who's to say they only do it with one show a year? Who knows? There's so much we don't know about this, by the way. So leave it at that. AEW Revolution is this Saturday, and they have a pretty stacked card for this. We also know that this week's television Dynamite on Wednesday will help build to really pound in the nails for this. I almost wish after last week's AEW Dynamite, which just had that phenomenal cage match with Cody versus Wardlow, his first televised wrestling match, which is just crazy to think. In Atlanta, GA, hot crowd. I wish they had the pay-per-view that weekend, like if you came off the show. But Dynamite does have some big hooks to kind of put you on the road to Revolution this Saturday, including an Iron Man match. Tell me more, Robert.
An Iron Man match. Kenny Omega versus Pac, the former Neville. 30 minutes. I think that's a mistake. I think it should be 60. That's another story entirely, but whatever. Listen, Kenny Omega needs to be Kenny Omega. I think we're dealing with a guy who fulfilled a lot of his dream in Japan and doesn't have that same hunger, that same fire to be the best in the world. He's just happy that he can present what he feels wrestling should be in the States. Mm-hmm. And I miss, crazy 9-star match Kenny Omega. And I would love to see that return in All Elite Wrestling.
It's definitely something where Omega, being the big bout machine that he was in New Japan and Ring of Honor, we've gotten those matches. We've gotten some incredible stuff from him. He headlined the first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. He headlined the second one. You still get those big matches, but I think on Dynamite, there is this reserve with Omega. We get to see him do some big things. Heck, he did a bigger match that a lot of people remember more from AEW Dark on their web series. But the big platform for them, the place where most people see them, is AEW Dynamite. And he's their tag team champion. They did that on TV as well. But a lot of people think maybe Omega doesn't feel as big a star as he should be. This is an opportunity to do that with a guy he's had big matches with before in Pac. The last time they faced each other was at All Out back in August. And Pac won that match, surprisingly, in a match that some people didn't think was the best match on the show, when a lot of people thought it would be. Is this the point where we kind of see the gas get pulled here on Omega and he goes all out bell to bell?
All the more reason why I want 60 minutes. 30-minute matches, they're not original. We get 30-minute matches all the time because the work rate is that strong across the board. Have these dudes go 60. Yeah, Charlotte Flair is on NXT. Who gives a shit? Because you got Kenny Omega and Pac going 60. Like, that would be cool. That's just one person's take on it, though.
The people chiming in saying Kenny seems to be lost a bit. The people saying he doesn't need the title, doesn't need to be the top guy in the company. He is a part of the EVPs. He is a part of the corporate structure of the company. I can tell you, he is coaching a lot of people, and he's also helping produce a lot of different talent, younger talent that they have in the company. And a lot of younger talent has also been the focus on television too.
And I love that. I get that the Bucks are doing that, blah blah blah. But you forget, just because you've been doing it for 13 years, or whatever, doesn't matter. To a large majority of the audience, you're young and you're fresh. Why the hell aren't you putting the pedal to the metal and putting yourself over, which will then get your brand over, which then you can allow yourself to be the head coach and do all that stuff.
Chris Green with the question is Revolution, the pay-per-view this Saturday. Once again, a pay-per-view you got to pay $50 for.
Yep. I'm not happy about that either.
What?
I'm not happy about it. I still think it's ridiculous because of the main point that the network is $9.99.
And that's what you're competing with. You're asking to pay more. So there you go. But some of those fans.
I can watch Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho in a cage with weapons for $9.99.
But Robert, I will do it to support a more alternative wrestling product and show Vince that we, the fans, could do a wrestling business. Yeah.
Morality and $5 will get you a cup of coffee, maybe.
But apparently $9.99 a month will get you, Robert, right?
Everything. Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah, everybody tweet that at Robert. $10 a month and you get Robert. All right, $10 a month and you get him. Chris Green, is it a 3-hour show? I think they've only announced 6 matches.
What do you know?
Do you
want to run down this card?
Yeah, let's run it down, bud.
Let's run down this card. Of course, we know at the top of the card we have John Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose, going one-on-one with Le Champion, Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm. This has been built up for quite some time. If you talked to me 3 weeks ago, I would have wanted the match then. They've done the beatdown angle. They've done the eye for the eye thing. These are the two biggest stars that they have, I think, that are the most casual, approachable wrestlers that a WWE fan, if they were to try an AEW show, and they still haven't, they've heard about it, and they've heard some things, and they see it trending on Twitter. This is the match that I think appeals to them the most.
Listen, I'm going to run down this card because there's not a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Kenny and Hangman versus the Bucks. The Elite explodes for the AEW tag team titles. Then you got Cody versus MJF, which could go 3 hours long and I wouldn't care because there's all the hatred and storyline there. And you got Dustin Rhodes against Jake Hager, which, if I'm being real, is a match that if you go on the network, you could probably find on an episode of Superstars or Main Event. And then you got
so much more now.
No, it means nothing. And then you got Guevara and Darby Allin.
So you wrote that off. I mean, Dustin Rhodes.
I'm going to write it off because Jake Hager versus Dustin Rhodes, they have a bit of rivalry, and I think for my taste in wrestling, it's probably more aligned. But at the same time, it's still just Jack Swagger and Dustin Rhodes. Like, it's a match I've seen, and it's a match I've seen only go 7. And I don't know if it can go longer.
Good point. Definitely some people jumping in here with their take on paying for pay-per-views we're discussing in general. If you're watching on demand on YouTube, on Facebook, and you're not with us live, we want to know what you think as well. And we'll jump into the comments with you guys as well. So a lot of different takes here. AEW Revolution this Saturday. I will be there. I will be at the show. And the match I am most looking forward to is a match I don't even think will be a phenomenal bell-to-bell, 5-star, all the moves. Wow, look what he did. He jumped over the top rope and he hit that other guy. I don't even think it'll be that match. It's Cody versus MJF. This is a bitter, bitter feud. This is drawn out. Everything has been articulated and put over the top and all the different ways you could do it. And here we are, MJF, Cody, one-time best friends. We always knew MJF would turn on him. We thought it would happen in August, but it happened in November. And then MJF put up all these caveats. If you want to have this match with me, you have to face Wardlow in a cage, and you have to defeat him, and then I have to give you 10 lashes on television. The emotions have poured out. This is Southern wrestling at its best. A lot of Memphis notes here, a lot of Dusty Rhodes influence, if you will, on top. Of course, Cody, the son of him. This is a big deal. What do you think?
Cody Rhodes needed All Elite Wrestling more than any other person in that promotion, and Cody Rhodes is shining like a diamond above. In my eyes,
like a diamond.
I mean, honestly, and in my eyes, above almost everybody else in the business, anywhere. Cody looks so comfortable. Cody looks like he's in his own skin. It's great. He's building stories the old school way. MJF is an old school heel. I told you already, I think this could go 3 hours and I wouldn't care. They have enough story there. They have enough heat. They have enough hatred. I think there's no way MJF doesn't win this match.
Do you think MJF wins this match? Because they get another one out of it.
By hook or by crook, and then I think it's a thing of, I'm never touching you again, Cody. I won. I'm better than you, and I'm never.
And I won. I cost you the opportunity to be a champion, and you never get to be a champion again, and you're always going to chase me.
They might even do the gimmick where, like, Cody just doesn't. Cody wins and doesn't stop beating his ass, and then, they overturn
the decision.
Yep. And then it's I beat you.
Here's my thing, though. If they get too, for lack of a better phrase, they get too dusty in that finish, man, I think you give them finality. Like this thing is gone far. They've done a lot of television with this, right? Done a lot of TV. And they've been building this since November, all right? You're now at the end of month 3 of an angle that was already built up to. So I do think they need something. I want to say complete finality, but I think you want a winner. I think they leave with if they do something like we got with Cody having the towel thrown in him at November at Full Gear and it cost him the title. And he said, if I don't win the title now, I'll never challenge for it. I mean, I don't think you can't add so many things on it. Winner and loser here. We've gone too far. We've done a cage and a lashing segment and all this different winner and loser now. That's where I think we are.
I disagree. I think we're just getting started.
All right. See what the fans are thinking here. Cody beats his ass and takes his ring. That's right. He does have the Battle Bowl ring because they have to have all those WCW things. Revived.
Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah,
bud. Oh yeah, up there in Minnesota, we love the Cody Rhodes. We love him.
I am so far from the Midwest. I don't know why that came out of me.
Oh yeah, no, go ice fishing now. The deep freeze. You got to go out in the lake there. You know, you ever go ice fishing out there, Robert? You guys can do that at Tampa Bay. You got a marlin, right?
I have not.
I wouldn't demote here. People saying Cody is in the zone.
The zone is a terrible streaming service.
I haven't tried it. All right. Once again, the views expressed by Robert are feeling strong.
Oh yeah, I just go off. Sorry, the zone.
Yeah. But thanks here. People asking if I'm going to have a sign at the show this weekend. I'm going to be at AEW on Saturday. Am I going to have a sign so they can see me in the crowd? No. Here's something about me.
You should be able to see the reflection of the lights
off my big
shining off that big bald head. I mean,
don't. This is where the power lies, Robert. The ideas within. Yeah. That's all you'll be able to find me. Speaking of shirts that I'll be wearing, I will be wearing the Royal Yumble shirt. You can get it now. And it could be still $13. They do these like flash sales with it. So it can fluctuate between $13 and $20. Go out there and get it. Look for it on TeePublic. It's on TeePublic right now. All of the proceeds from this shirt benefit the Central Fire Authority of Victoria, Australia, and their efforts to relieve all the devastation from the Australian bushfires just a few months ago. A lot of great charity we're trying to do there. We're thinking about every quarter we'll have a new shirt that we put out just for charity. Yeah. This Royal Rumble one is a pretty one. My brother Brendan drew it up. If you like those old Royal Rumble commercials, those posters from the early 90s where they're walking down the tough street, we did that with all the fast food mascots. And you can watch the fast food Royal Rumble, which had a very controversial finish because we like those dusty finishes, right? Don't want dust in your cheeseburger. We got dust on our cheeseburger fast food wrestling match. You can go watch it. It's in our. We're gonna put that up on YouTube this week, by the way.
Lots of cheese.
So much cheese on it. Robert, I know you're busy with other wrestling websites.
I am. I'm busy with smartcutmoment.com. Myself, Tony Mango, Callum Wiggins. We're the three guys who just talk a lot on smartcutmoment.com. Gonna do the hot tag with Tony tonight after I get done with Kevin because Kevin comes first, and we will be doing a Raw post show tonight.
Yep.
And then
you on the podcast side of things, we only do that in video. We don't put audio out of that.
That's right. So get in on the Facebook, get in on the YouTube, enjoy it. Outside of that, I'll do WrestleZone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, doing the news, doing the scoops, and then I do Fightful. And I work for Sean Ross Sapp, who also breaks a lot of scoops and does a lot of that. And I'm always involved in wrestling, guys. Wrestling is my life. It's just consumed me. I'm going to turn into a turnbuckle one day. It's going to be weird.
And you'll be devoured by George the Animal Steel.
That's pretty much how I see myself going at this point.
I can tell you I am busy with 101 WKQX, the leading alternative rock radio station in the nation. Soon, we will announce our big festival picnic. All right, that's coming soon. All right, that goes down this summer, and we'll announce all the details about that. Also at our website, you like Rage Against the Machine? We're giving away tickets to see Rage Against the Machine. So go Google Rage Against the Machine WKQX. You Google that, you can enter to win tickets.
Why are you promoting this Raging Against the Machine? Aren't you pro WWE? Don't you hate when people try to forcefully rage against the machine?
How can I rage against the machine when I'm the voice of the machine? Yes. So that's another thing to think about. I will be on the comedy roads as well. You can follow all my dates at Kev Kellum. Robert, do I need to book some stand-up in the Tampa Bay area WrestleMania weekend?
You know what? I think there's far too much going on that weekend. But if you want to book stand-up in the Tampa Bay area after WrestleMania weekend,
do we need to do a meetup? Maybe we do a meetup. We get a pick with fans of the show that afternoon parking lot.
Maybe we should. Maybe.
Yeah. So WrestleMania, Robert and I will be there. That'll be a fun time. That's coming up as well. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We will be back Monday through Thursday. We will have shows this week. The great Angel Garcia will be joining me as well. Robert with me and more shows. And we will have a bunch of content and I believe a post-show, possibly a watch-along with a Super Showdown on Thursday. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We'll join you after this week's Monday Night Raw video exclusive, not on the podcast feed, for our Raw post-show. When you're watching all this wrestling and you're so mad, they're gonna make me pay to watch something I usually pay to watch. Right. So we're just gonna ask you to calm down. Ask you to do just one important thing. Take a deep breath. Take a sip of that. Take a sip of your favorite beverage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Put that stadium cup with all your favorite superstars on it down. All right. Lean into the couch and do what, Robert?
Enjoy wrestling.